Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings, everyone. This is the Sound Health Options Show for March 23rd, 2014, with Richard Olson and Sherry Edwards. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning. It's such a beautiful... I can see the sun for the first time.
Wow!
I can see the sun here. I think that's why I really don't like winter very well. It's so gray and dingy and all shades of gray, from blue-gray to black, everything, the trees, the ground, the sky, people's moods. They're all there.
And is it warming up there yet? Are you out of the, subterranean weather?
It might be 45 or 50 here today. So, yes, we're warming
congratulations.
up from 10 below and all that.
Yikes.
We have a great crowd with a great guest going on. I'm glad you liked the little ditties that we played before the show. We have, a couple of announcements. We are simultaneously broadcasting on Blog Talk Radio, and you can join us on Blog Talk by dialing 347-850-1407, or you can go to blogtalk.com, blogtalkradio.com/Sherry-Edwards, and it will take you to the show where you can listen. But if you'd like to watch the show, then go to our website, soundhealthoptions.com, and you can see what's going on. And right now we're looking at Blog Talk Radio show of what is heart rate variability. You see a picture there of our guest, and we will be with her shortly, just as soon as we make all these announcements. We're coming to you from the studios of Sound Health and the Institute of Bioacoustic Biology. We're a registered 501c3 nonprofit. Our latest project is fibromyalgia, and we're going to be doing a 2-day workshop on fibromyalgia. Richard reminded me to tell you about allergies in a second. I don't want to forget that. It's really important. Anybody who has fibromyalgia, we're going to give you a full scholarship to that 2-day class, which includes the fibromyalgia software that you can use in your own home. Now, if you don't know if you have fibromyalgia, go look it up, because you probably do, with all the junk and gunk and medications and toxins and garbage in our body. If your muscles hurt and ache and you look at that little map and you got pain there, then possibly you have fibromyalgia. So you can go to our site, soundhealthoptions.com, go to classes, go to 2-day technician, look at all of that information about what we're going to be doing. There's the fibromyalgia flyer for those of you who are watching. And here's the fibromyalgia software right there in the middle. We'll be teaching you how to do that for yourself and how to set up a center so that you can immediately look at all these issues with fibromyalgia. And we didn't plan it this way, but one of the things that happen with fibromyalgia is it can be stress-induced. So our guest today is going to pick up on that and tell us more about what's going on. We are sponsored today by our fibromyalgia muscle factors box, because we found out 2 different things that relieve about 80 to 90% of fibromyalgia pain. So maybe we'll have time to talk about that a little later. I have 3 things to share with you. I think is very, very interesting. How sound affects the taste of food. I had no idea. But we've been talking about sound for so long about how we're made up of sounds. And we made the statement years ago that your nerves, although the little frequencies run around your nerves, this also could be translated into sound. And just this year, an article came out about that. We have a couple of other ancient beliefs, and I'll put this link in for you. Things that have been consistent in society from the beginning. Oh, and I was just posting to Colleen. I need to post to everybody. Richard, do you have a chat going on over there at Blog Talk too?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So these things, I mean, it's a long article, but go read it. It's wonderful. Helping others make you healthier. Acupuncture can restore balance to your body. We need the support of a community in order to thrive. I mean, just very, very nice. And another biggie that I loved this morning, someone sent me, Hawaii has banned biotech companies that have anything to do with GMOs or GMO crops. It's starting in the United States, guys. Hawaii, a state, banned this. We knew about all these other countries banning it, but we're looking at Hawaii. What's the other one? Not Australia, New Zealand, parts of Egypt. I mean, we have announced a lot of them that I just think is absolutely incredible. So that's good.
I think it's awesome that Hawaii has banned GMOs, because that's actually in the United States, and maybe that'll be the point of we begin to actually figure it out and go, no to GMOs. That would be amazing.
Richard, I sent you the keynote before we started. Did you read it in... I read it in absolute awe of our guest today.
I just love the keynotes. The keynote is, because I know Sherry's going to ask me to talk about the keynote. The keynote is a sound or a tone that is generated by the cosmos. I don't know what else to call it. By the sky story, by the cosmos. And it's monitored by, Sherry and her software, and probably the NSA is listening to it and recording it, but doesn't know what to do with it, and other agencies, regular agencies. And it is a tone. When she talks about it, you'll see that it comes out as a particular note or tone that is kind of in the field in influence for the next 5 to 7-ish days. And it's just amazing. The really funny part that Sherry's talking about is how it has really been matching up with our guests. And we don't pre-pick the guests based on the keynote, but a lot of times it seems like it. It's amazing.
You want me to read it, Richard, or do you want to?
No, I'll have you read it, please.
Okay. It's all about frequencies and the beginning, and I don't know how the calendar starts in January, but our seasons really start like in the spring. So we have, December, January, and February, that's winter, or summer, depending on where. But our real calendar just starts in January, like in the middle of nowhere. But one of the things I think is very interesting about starting in January is the frequencies that are coming to the planet are really the frequencies of creation, the frequencies of sulfur and ammonia and oxygen and hydrogen. It's just amazing to me that they're all coming together right now. So I did the keynote for March 24th. We try to do it a couple of days in advance. And it is the note of C for our astrology people. This really is like astrology for the universe, not necessarily for a personality. So I'm going to read it to you, but first I want to tell you we're doing a little Body Green series. So I've posted a little green guy set on a pedestal here. And these are just some notes or items we found about the body. And this one says, we have a whole pharmacy within us. We can create any drug inside us that we need. And that's another thing we've been working on at the research center, looking at giving people insulin by frequency so they don't lose a limb when the insulin or gets overflowed or not regulated, or a kidney, because that's where it clears. Well, some of the medications like metformin. Okay, so I've titled this, Frequency Claims Us All. At the beginning of the calendar year, I don't know, I should read it from where I originally wrote it because that doesn't make any sense. Should be as with the beginning of the calendar year, so does the beginnings of life as oxygen and sulfur frequencies become active. We can show bioacoustically how the original elements move together, combining and recombining to create who we are today. And if you'd like a copy of that chart, please get in touch with me. I'll show it to the people who are, I thought I would show it to people who are watching us on, well, it won't do what it ought to do, so I'm going to bring it over so you can see it from where I printed it. But frequency is oxygen, the frequency of oxygen minus hydrogen equals nitric oxide for cell respiration. Water plus nitrogen equals oxygen. Water plus oxygen equals estrogen and potassium cell salt. So we put these all together for people to look at them. I think the universe came together by frequencies bombarding each other, and I'm not reading this, I'm just saying it, like pebbles in a pond, come together and create a third waveform. Okay, reading again. On the other side of that creation is serum amyloid alpha, proteins associated with high-density lipoproteins that become a part of blood plasma. They are created in response to inflammatory stimuli and stress. Produced in the liver, these amyloids have been implicated in atherosclerosis and rheumatoid arthritis. GMOs and packaged foods have been implicated in causing this inflammation. For those of you who want to get off grains, they are very addictive. You could try phosphatidylserine. It's helped some people break the spell of that grain-based, especially wheat, food, F-U-D-E. I just didn't want to spell it as in real food. Some age-old flu frequencies are creeping in at the end of the week. We did give out those frequencies for Yersinia pestis. We'll give them out again if you guys need them, or send them to you if you'll just get in touch. So some extra biflavonoids might be appropriate, or whatever else your body likes to ward off invading pathogens. I've heard you talk about olive leaf, and a couple of other people talk about olive leaf that would ward off these incoming pathogens. You use NAC, that's your favorite, to ward off anything, Richard? Oh, maybe we've lost Richard. Okay. Some neck vertebrae, C7 actually comes into play on Tuesday. C7 innervates the neck, vocal cords, thyroid, and shoulders. Some energy issues will show up by the end of the week sooner for those of you who are very sensitive, and those two are tyrosine, an amino acid used to help synthesize proteins and support cell communication, and tyrosine can be found in chicken, turkey, fish, milk, yogurt, cottage cheese, peanuts, almonds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, soy products, lima beans, avocados, and bananas. And cortisol, the really bad guy, will become active midweek. This hormone is released in response to stress and low glucocorticoids that's associated with blood sugar. It suppresses the immune system, but aids in fat, protein, and carbohydrate metabolism. It decreases bone formation. You can go up there and look at the stuff with atherosclerosis and rheumatoid arthritis, that some of this start to eat away at things inside the body. I think that's related, and also with arterial, no, what's the one that is your osteoporosis, and is intimately involved in weight management and disease. So, Richard, any comment about that?
Well, I did. I had myself muted for a moment. I was going to add not only NAC, but also I would say is sort of anytime I think anything is going on that I want to be fighting against or, boosting up a little, I always go for grapefruit seed extract as well.
Oh, yes.
Different actions, but I really love grapefruit seed extract. It's inexpensive. It's readily available. I use it topically. I use it internally. For most people, I would recommend using the capsules or tablets because the taste is like, I've heard somebody describe it as tire skid marks. It is gnarly internally,
yes,
in terms of the liquid.
It's great for like recluse spider bites, mosquito bites. You can put the oil on. We should let people know why that works with so many different pathogens. It has in it something called an anti-hematogglutenin, and that does not allow the pathogens to adhere to the cell of the body. So it just kind of gets passed out of the body. So people say, how can I kill that many things? Well, it just goes after protecting the cell with a coating that doesn't allow the bad guys to seep in. Anything else you want to add to that?
I don't think so. For those that have heard my voice before, if you've heard my voice, I've probably talked about NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It's just a really great supporter of the liver, a great urgent detoxifier. If I've been exposed to anything, or even if I'm feeling allergic. Now, again, this is a powder that I would not recommend for the delicate palate because it is gnarly tasting, but it's also available in capsules. Very good to have around for, I use it pretty much daily because there's always some sort of exposure because I live in an agricultural region. But really super beneficial to the liver, a good source of oral sulfur, and, a good value to have around for an immediate, even, like food poisoning or something kind of bad. It's not directly effective on the digestive system, but it's so helpful to the liver in detoxifying. It's one of my favorites, as Sherry said.
I think that is all of the announcements. So if you want one of these frequency is banners, just let me know. Just Sherry Edwards at Gmail. That's Sherry with an A. I don't think we have any new people with us today, but we'll send it right out to you. And Richard, would you introduce our special guest?
I would be delighted. I'm going to read a very short paragraph, and then she'll tell us what it says. HRV is a measure of the patterns embedded in the heartbeat and a reflection of the autonomic nervous system. The nervous system, heart rate, blood pressure regulation, and respiration are under control of the autonomic nervous system. HRV is an excellent indicator of many health parameters. Okay, now Rhonda's going to put that all into regular words for us. So Rhonda Collier, CEO and co-founder of Sweetwater Health, has more than 25 years' experience in high-tech product development with a proven track record of delivering leading-edge consumer electronic products within both private-held startups and Fortune 500 companies. She spent the last 3 years as an independent scholar researching non-invasive health monitoring techniques to improve overall personal well-being. This research led to the founding of Sweetwater Health in 2010. Good morning, Rhonda.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
I am excellent. And yourself?
Excellent. I'm excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
So I have to ask, this is going to be a little bit of a breaking of the pool table rack for a moment, because the questions are, how the heck did you get from high-tech product development into HRV monitoring in such and then that will lead to the what is HRV, why do we want it, but how did you get here? What is your journey to being what I would call positively possessed by HRV?
Well, Well, I actually am an electrical engineer that did, and I did graphics and video chip design for 25 years and loved it.
Wow.
Until one day I was just kind of done. And a friend of mine was getting her master's in holistic psychology. And that just sounded so interesting that suddenly I found myself enrolled. It was really sort of one of those things where the universe takes you over and moves you where you're supposed to be. So I spent 3 years in graduate school learning about my inner state, because the training really was to be a marriage family therapist. And a lot of that training is learning your own self so that you can not get triggered by your clients and sort of add to their issues. So, and holistic psychology is really engineering systems theory applied to relationships. It was really fascinating from an engineering perspective to see what marriage family therapy is. And because I wasn't going to be a therapist, I wrote my thesis on systems theory. So I started with quantum physics and sort of tied the thread up through living systems theories, physiology system theories, and tied the chain all the way up into how to build a healthy business. And through this research, I found these recurring patterns and themes throughout all of these different scientific disciplines. And part of that really was patterns, okay, and frequencies. And I love what Sherry was talking about, all the frequencies. I mean, we live in a universe of frequencies. And so it was just really through my thesis research that I found heart rate variability. And also the 3 years of needing to learn my inner state, I thought, God, yeah, it would be great to have an iPhone app that alerts you when you get triggered. Because in order to really change anything in your life, you have to be self-aware. And sometimes when we're chronically in a situation like stress, our brains are big pattern matchers. And if it's familiar, we don't notice it, even if it's not good. So people with chronic stress don't even notice it. They feel relaxed, even if their nervous system is in chronic fight or flight, for example. So that's kind of how I got into it. I wanted to do something that was meaningful, and this just was it.
I'm still hung up
my
at the fact that you were I'm still hung up at you were a chip designer. That's still blowing my mind, because the concept of that is just like mind-boggling. So this seems, this system is like, wow, that's relatively direct. I love the fact that you just went right to, oh, there should be an app on the iPhone for that. It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So now that we've gotten there, tell us about HRV.
In our image.
Excuse me?
So we created computer chips in our own image?
Well, I don't know.
Wow, I find that concept fascinating. I think we've created books and the way our mind thinks and how we solve things, but to find out that computer chips, that engineering is really like what we do with our personalities, that's awesome.
Oh, it is. So engineering systems theory, and you'd think more along the lines of big systems, like a whole cell phone network. There's a lot of systems theory, if you will, in there. And when you take the actual theory and compare it to like a marriage family therapy or how people interact, it's so similar. I mean, you have valves. If you have someone in a family who's the identified patient, if you will, usually the teenager, upon closer inspection, usually they're the valve, steam valve of the family. And so what they're doing is actually venting for a dynamic that's going on within the family. So it's really patterns in relationships.
Wow. I'm still back at wow.
Yeah. Pretty interesting.
So now it's fascinating. Now let's explain, or if you would please explain to the audience what HRV is.
Okay.
And then the secondary question is, why the heck do we care?
Okay, well, those are great questions, and we want more people to understand this. So when people think of their heart rate, they really, in the past, have focused on, oh, well, I have a resting pulse of 50, I'm healthy, or I have a resting pulse of 70, and I'd like it to be 60. Well, it turns out that while resting heart rate is important, it tends to also be genetic and fitness-based. What's more important is the pattern of the heartbeat, and that is really mutually exclusive from your heart rate. So let me give an example. If someone says their resting heart rate is 60, actually it probably varies between 55 and 65 with an average heart rate of 60, okay? So that variation between 55 and 65 is what's called heart rate variability. And a simple way to understand that is that when we inhale, our heart rate increases, and when we exhale, it decreases, okay? So this is a natural occurring variation of the heartbeat. And so you start thinking of your heart rate in terms of how much is it varying versus what is my average heart rate of 50, 60, 70, and so on like that. So that's what heart rate variability is, okay? What causes heart rate variability is the autonomic nervous system. Now, the autonomic nervous system has two branches. The sympathetic branch, which we all understand as the fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic branch, which is the rest and repair or rest and digest branch, okay? So the sympathetic nervous system, and most people have heard of fight or flight, when that gets activated, our heart rate increases, okay? And when our parasympathetic branch gets activated, our heart rate decreases. And so what you have are these two branches of the nervous system constantly sort of in a tug of war, if you will, increasing the heart rate and decreasing the heart rate. And it's all based on what we're doing. If we're lying down and stand up, we need the heart rate to increase to keep our blood pressure normalized and so on. So that's really what causes heart rate variability. And because that's what causes heart rate variability, we are actually able to do some complex algorithms on your heart rhythm to see what your nervous system's doing. And by the way, Richard, this has been researched for over 30 years, and there's thousands of papers in the National Institute of Health database alone. So this is real medical science.
And I'd never thought of this before till just now. Where did the HRV research start? Was there a breaking, paper that was written by somebody 30 years ago, or was it sort of one of these things in the quantum field that just sort of began to evolve, people began observing it?
That's a great question. I believe you nailed it. It's sort of people started observing it, and don't quote me on this, but it is likely that it started in the analysis of cardiac patients. And one of the early signs of cardiovascular disease is a decrease of heart rate variability. And I want to make this point right up front here. A healthy person has a high heart rate variability. That means a lot of, when I gave the example of if your average heart rate is 60, it might go between 55 and 65. You would actually prefer it go between 50 and 70. You want a high heart rate variability because it's an indication of a robust and resilient nervous system.
And can you picture that out a little more? Can you talk about how that interacts, or how that looks? I don't know. I want a graphic for that.
You do. A picture says 1,000 words on this one.
Yeah.
So let's see.
I understand.
Let me put it this way, and it's actually easier to, I think, understand for me when you talk about someone who is starting to develop cardiovascular disease. Okay, what happens is the nervous system sort of loses its elasticity. We use a rubber band as an example. A healthy nervous system is like a brand new rubber band. It stretches and then it returns to its original form, okay? And it'll stretch a lot and then snap right back very quickly, okay? So that's sort of a recovery. As someone starts to develop some sort of a systemic illness, the nervous system becomes brittle. Excuse me. It's like an old, brittle rubber band that not only doesn't stretch out very much when you pull on it, but it does not snap back to its original form. And so if your nervous system, if something's going on systemically, then it will show up in like a stiff rubber band. And what happens with heart patients is they're unable to respond and recover from life, if you will. And that's why you hear of a lot of people having heart attacks during some big stressful situation. There's a paper that we read about heart attacks during earthquakes, for example. And what happens is that the individual is subjected to above average stress, and because their nervous system, if you will, is stiff and brittle, they're unable to recover, and it can result in a heart attack. Does that make sense?
So it'd be, yes. So in my thinking, it would be like a lactic acid buildup in a muscle in a certain way that creates stiffness and makes the muscle not as flexible, or you tend to have cramps, and in a long-term basis, that'll have a downside. And the same thing here, where our nervous system is so in a hypertonistic or a chronic state of stress, the body just adapts to that, and pretty soon the nerves are like, we forgot how to get back there.
That's right. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Okay.
Ooh, that's a T-shirt.
Yes.
That'd
and
be
so
a great
people
T-shirt.
people who get stressed and then don't, if you will, shake it off their body. I'm sure you are familiar with what happens in nature when animals and even people get stressed. They tremble it off, okay? And that helps discharge the energy that we stored in the nervous system during the fight or flight event.
And I think that's such an interesting. I think that's such an interesting observation about the animals shaking it off, because a lot of times when people see an animal do that, they think the animal is scared. And the animal may indeed be scared, but they don't understand that that is a function of their smart nervous system blowing what I would call the charge, or probably the cortisol dump out of their system.
Right.
It's really smart. I mean, it's like,
it is.
wow.
It is. Yeah, I like to tell people,
that.
because a lot of people have been in some sort of a traffic incident, and it's a great way to sort of explain it. People, once you're in a traffic incident, it's usually big enough that you'll find yourself trembling. And that's actually the nervous system discharge response. Now, what we don't do is when we have a psychological incident, like that person cut me off, or whatever, you're stressed at work, just I can't find my keys. It causes stress in our bodies, and we don't shake it off. And so this causes chronic stress.
So that means that we can actually get stuck in a chronic state if we don't do something like HRV to really help bring that back down and get our nervous system to go, oh no, it's okay now. We can be safe. That's
right. Okay. Through knowledge that we can make changes. And when you're used to feeling stressed,
that's a shocking concept.
I know. We get so many customers saying, "But I feel relaxed," and yet they're in chronic fight or flight. And so it's really sort of a godsend that they found a sweet beet in order to see that in fact they're chronically stressed. And something drove them to buy it in the first place, So I think probably subconsciously they knew that something was going on that they needed to deal with.
Yeah. And how does this differ? How does sweet beet or working with HRV differ from something like meditation?
Well, meditation actually can improve your heart rate variability. Okay? Meditation is one of the things that we recommend to our customers who find that they're stressed. And one meditation that I do want to bring up, the heart math, because they do heart rate variability. They do what's called coherence training. And that, if you do that 20 minutes a day, it's sort of like a meditation. You can, in the long term, increase your overall heart rate variability, increase the resilience of your nervous system, and which allows you to respond and recover from daily stressful situations. And some of their research indicates that by doing coherence training, you can reset your stress point, if you will. So something that used to stress you out doesn't stress you out anymore. So it's really wonderful. And that I really falls into the meditation where you're doing this regular breathing and deep breathing and that really helps the nervous system.
Well, and I've done meditation, and one of the things that I love about using the Sweet Beats is the name of the software that Rhonda co-developed, is that it's for the left brain dominant type that I can be, is that there's actually like, oh, look, I can see a result.
Yeah, that's right.
I can observe, like, because in the meditation, there's always that, like, I'm not feeling anything, I don't get it, I'm still having thoughts, there's head noise, oh, what was that, all this. There's nothing trackable. I mean, yes, in a long-term basis, people doing TM for 25 years are pretty mellow. But I still know people who do TM who are still like stress bags.
That's
and
right.
What I love about this is you can actually observe your stress bag, tendencies or not.
That's right. That's right.
That's such a powerful tool.
Yeah, and we've done some studies. One was actually one of our co-founders who presented this at Quantified Self. She'd been tracking for over a year. And she'd had life events, her mother passing away and some really, really stressful situations. However, just simply by using Sweet Beat and becoming aware of her nervous system, it increased through that year.
That's amazing.
All she did was learn. Okay, here's her great example. That she loved green meditation, so that's what she calls it, walking through the park. Increased her heart rate variability. And so she started, she used to go a couple times a week. She started going every day, okay? And so it's through learning the little things. We actually call it generative feedback. It's like we compare it to when you first get a hybrid car, you start learning like one little thing that you do that keeps you in electric mode. So if I accelerate slowly, I stay in electric mode. And so that one behavior change is actually repeated over and over and over again, and you get better gas mileage. Well, same with heart rate variability measurement. To learn one behavior that gives you a high heart rate variability, you repeat that same behavior over and over and over again, and it has a really profound effect on your overall health and nervous system health.
Well, and I think not only does it have, because there are a lot of things we try and do for health that we don't necessarily observe the, thing, but we're stronger and healthier down the road. But one of the things, again, about Sweet Beat, or HRV, is that you do it for a while, and you do actually feel a measurable thing. You actually feel more at ease, even though you still get stressed. Right. And you recover from the stress points. Like when I'm doing a show, like now, I have, when I've done some, engineering, I put on my strap and monitor myself, and my heart rate goes up. My HRV is okay, not great, but okay. But then after I'm done, I sit down, and my HRV comes back into balance, and my stress levels go down. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to observe that.
Yeah, yeah.
And feel the difference.
Yeah, and you get to see what's going on inside your body. And if you don't recover, then that's something to work on. Because really we want a nervous system that's elastic like that rubber band, that can not only tolerate more stress, that's the sort of resilience, but then recover quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. It's
wow.
It's really cool stuff.
It's always mind-blowing because it's so, well, on another show sometime we'll talk about quantum field. That's a whole different show. But, when I think about it, the effects of, I've used HRV and some of the heart math stuff down through the years. And it's one of those things that I just feel is such a positive effector for people that it's really that's why I really wanted to have you on and have you talk about it, because it's so beneficial in the long-term basis. It's one of those things that when you start now, in a year or 6 months, you're going to go, wow, I can't believe I didn't do that before because I feel better.
No, that's right. That's right. And I wanted to just remind, your audience some stuff Sherry was talking about is that when you are in fight or flight, which you can measure with heart rate variability, your cortisol is just cranking, okay? And that just plays. Now you're messing with hormones and enzymes and all craziness in your body. That just starts up a feedback loop. It can lead into insulin resistance, weight issues, and so on. And so having an overdose of cortisol constantly, hypervigilance, it's insane. And so I really want to bring it down to something people understand, which kind of is the cortisol situation of stress, and that's measured through the fight or flight response in your nervous system. So they basically correlate.
I think that's really, I have to hang up now and call 6 friends and tell them they have to do this immediately, because I know that they have cortisol issues.
Yeah.
And I know that they have, and that can so disturb your sleep cycle, not just, your blood sugar issues, but really mess up with your sleep cycle, and they wake up in the morning exhausted, and now that's because it's a cortisol issue.
No,
so
that's right.
This is such a wonderful, friendly, positive effector on the immune system. I'm not, by the way, for people listening, I'm an employee or paid by Rhonda. I'm an enthusiast of this work, because it's really like one of those things that, we've all tried to do meditation, but it's really difficult to observe the end result. Whereas with this, we can actually observe, the first time you start monitoring yourself, you go, wow, I'm stressed out, and I begin to observe in my body what that stress is, and I do the breathing exercises, which are not, we're not talking a big deal. It's just really breathing.
That's right.
And it sounds very technical as you talk about it and as we converse about it, but really it comes down to, I'm stressed out, sit down, do some breathing, look at what's happening on your HRV, on Sweet Beats, and wow, I notice that I feel better now. And each day, I'm a fanboy.
Well, and I just want to point out, because we've done so many experiments and sort of case studies on this, change your thoughts, change your HRV, We'll sort of go with Wayne Dyer's book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Brain. Change your thoughts, change your HRV. You can literally think your way into fight or flight. You can sit at your desk and think a thought that irritates you, and you'll watch it go.
Yes, that's so awesome, because I know people, I know TMers who, trained with, yada yada and, all this stuff, and they did a bunch of amazing things, but then I know them well enough to watch them get into an angst state, and it's all from their mind. It's not like they're threatened or there's a tiger not the classic demonstration of a tiger in the room. It's in their head. That's right. And this is really, you're kind of nailing my personal reason for creating this application, is because it is in our minds, and we can change it. My favorite example is using Sweet Beat while you drive. Every day you pass a certain exit where it always backs up, okay? And every day you get into a little snip fit, okay, over the traffic. That's all in your mind. And by actually observing what's going on with you, you can then decide, you know what, here comes that exit. I'm going to turn the radio on or off, or I'm going to just start breathing and I'm going to chill. And then that actually removes a whole fight or flight response from your daily commute. That's, that's one thing. That's one step in the road to recovery. It is. We do things every day. I can't find my keys, and, Mom, sorry, but my mom I can't find my glasses. That was sort of her thing. And she'd get all upset about it, all the time. And it's like, Mom, it's just not worth a heart attack because you can't find your glasses. It really isn't. Yeah. And so you can actually learn to control that. That's a wonderful. That's an amazing part. That's like, to me, one of the hugest benefits of using this is that you can actually observe it and notice it and then choose to change it.
That's
it's
right.
like, wow. Versus
That's right.
meditating was always hard because there was nothing actually observable. There was not a way, and maybe that's, as I say, because I'm just sort of a nerdy type. However, I just think it's such a great way to, blow off things and observe them and have a change.
That's right.
I want to say, I'll say something, and then I want to ask a question. Is that there was or is a cardiologist, a fairly renowned cardiologist, and I'd use his name if I could remember it. And his phrase was, "Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff."
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that was one of the things that he worked with his patients about, exactly what you're talking about. It's that daily buildup of, why is it taking so long to get my latte? Why is this guy in front of me on the same corner every day going 6 miles an hour? Where's that old lady coming from again? Or, just like, really? I mean, really? This is what we're getting? Our bodies get stressed out about? That's right. There's enough invasive, weird, fill-in-the-blank, bad word stuff happening on the planet that's, stuff. So, observing that thing when you're driving, wow, I can't wait to strap on my chest strap and, do that when I'm driving. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you my story. I had it on. I was on 280, in the middle of the day. It's a beautiful drive, so no traffic. And I pulled up behind a truck, and I just sat there for some reason, and then I noticed my HRV went down. My stress went up because I have a thing about being behind a truck, and yet I stayed there, and it was crazy. And I didn't really feel stressed. But having that truck in front of me put me slightly into fight or flight. It was just really bizarre. So next time there's no traffic, don't just move away from the truck,
What a shocking idea. Just, move away from the truck.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love
that part of you, I'll just say it. I'm just going to be honest. There's a part of you that just wants to be in that snit.
Yeah.
We sort of get addicted to feeling that way.
I think it may be that sort of endorphin, there is something oddly enervating about having the nervous system irritated. It does put us in that more slightly hyper alert.
That's right.
We're aware. But really, a truck?
Right. That's right.
So
I'd rather be in that hyper-aware with a lot of power flowing through the nervous system and a nice balanced nervous system. I do want to mention that while this just reminded me, like I said, we've been doing this for years now. We noticed that when you're in the zone, if you will, when you're being highly creative, your HRV goes really high. And you're in a balanced state, but your nervous system power, if you will, just increases substantially. So that's the other end of sort of the fight or flight, where your sympathetic nervous system goes crazy. When you're in the zone, everything just bounces out and just soars. It's really remarkable.
Wow, how wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Now, is there such a thing as, this is a two-parter, is there such a thing as good stress, and how do we observe that just as what you were talking about, that we go into a zone? Is there good stress?
That's right. Yeah, there is. And what we've noticed is, and I'll just go ahead and mention it briefly. Anyone can go to our website and learn more about this, because power levels are difficult to explain. But there's a power level. It's the amplitude of electricity flowing through your nervous system. That's a simplistic way to put it. And when you're in good stress, or called eustress, or whatever you want to call it, the power levels of your nervous system really increase. While you're going about your day, it might be 800 or something like that, and then when you're in eustress, it might move into the thousands. Okay, so you might get a 3x increase in your nervous system power during the good stress. And it feels good, and you're motivated, and you're enthusiastic versus irritated. So I prefer that sort of heightened state. And I think most people do too, but they don't know how to get there.
We're looking at Is there anything you want to point us to? I'm stuck on the weight loss thing, but I'm trying to look at other stuff. looking at the what kind of stress are we talking about? Causes, cost of stress. So lots of hidden articles in here that people can sort of load and.
Right. So the first one I recommend, Sherry, is in the I guess you're looking at our library. In the top right, there's a section called Support, and the bottom one there says Hrv Measurement Explanations. And that was really generated as a result of support questions from our customers. And so we recommend everybody sort of start there. But then when you go down into the weight loss section, there's some papers that get a little technical, but it talks about the cortisol and inflammation connection.
You could spend weeks on this. There's so many articles here.
Yeah, so that's why we've separated it for different groups. You've got the people who use it for athletic training, because it turns out when you overtrain, it shows up as a fatigued nervous system. And so we measure that. We have a ton of athletes that use it every morning to guide their training. And there's research that shows by using HRV to guide your training, you don't overtrain, you allow your body to recover properly, and that you have better outcomes.
That's an amazing thought. Wow.
Because, and this goes into what you were saying in the beginning, Richard, it's a systemic view. I mean, we're concerned about, heart function, liver function, kidney function, but we don't look at the system that controls those organs. And so heart rate variability is the system that controls them. And if you don't have a robust nervous system, then the function of all the individual organs will be compromised as well.
And can I take a slight sidestep and ask
Absolutely.
ask you about how HRV balancing and using sweet beets can help our digestive systems. And when I say digestive systems, I don't mean just a meal. I mean the overall. Sherry spends an amazing amount of time, inevitably, and because it's something that I'm really fascinated by, the methylation cascade. The methylation cascade and how we break down our food. And I just think that this is another arena that's so fascinating about, we're talking about mind, we're talking about this stuff, but how does this all affect our digestive process?
That is such a great question, because so many people have messed up digestive systems in a variety of ways. So, as I mentioned, the sympathetic nervous system is an indication of the fight or flight response. Now, I only said fight or flight increases the heart rate. It does a lot more. So we're cavemen, and we see the saber-toothed tiger. We need to basically survive. And what that means is our heart rate increases, blood flow to the muscles increases. And it shuts down our digestion to save energy, to run away. Okay? We don't need to digest food if we're not going to live. Okay, so this is what the sympathetic activation does. Increase heart rate, and it moves energy to the quick response in the brain and quick response in the muscles and shuts down digestion. Okay? And so chronic stress causes digestion problems. Whereas the parasympathetic, which is what I call sort of the rest and repair and the rest and digest. Okay? So when the parasympathetic nervous system is active, our heart rate decreases, the blood is not flowing to our external muscles to run. It's actually aiding in our systemic functions like digestion. And so chronic stress causes major digestion problems. It's just the body's way of saying, this is not important right now. But when we're in false chronic stress, like the traffic, like the keys, like whatever you're having your issues with, then we have digestion problems.
Boy, howdy. And digestion is where it all starts. I mean, that's where all of everything that our body is trying to use comes in. So if you're in cortisol dump mode, your digestive system is going, nope, too busy, trying to survive, can't do that.
That's right. And when your digestive, and remember, and I love it. I mean, we live in a holistic universe, and our bodies are absolutely holistic. And I talked about the systems theory. Everything feeds back on each other, okay? I mean, the nervous system doesn't just tell the liver what to do. The liver also tells the nervous system how it's doing, okay? So everything talks to everything else. And so when the nervous system is not working right, it responds back to the digestive system, and when the digestive system isn't working right, it responds back on the nervous system, and you sort of get this resonance, if you will, in a way that you don't want, and it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it's
and that's
like
also why eating whole food and good food is important, because say you're exercising and doing lots of good things and having a good attitude, but you're eating, the standard American diet. Your nervous system will, your digestive system will feed back to your nervous system and will cause problems. So it's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected.
From the audience here, and I need to answer it, I think. Richard, you're familiar with all of this, and the question is, how quickly does the HRV monitor respond? Would it be a suitable feedback device for us to use instead of the pulse oximeter? I don't know enough about it to answer it. I don't know if our guest knows enough about.
Yeah, no, I do actually.
Oh, okay.
So a pulse oximeter is mostly used to get heart rate and blood oxygenation. Okay, and it actually looks at the expansion and contraction of the capillaries. There's these little LEDs that shine lights in there and get a reflection. We can't get good heart rate variability on it because we need the spikes that you see in EKG to be accurate. However, the SweetBeat app works in real time, okay? So we calculate HRV every heartbeat. So you would see an immediate response. If you were to think a thought, or if you're lying down and stand up, you'll see the change right away. So it is real time. Hopefully
and doesn't
that
lead to? I think that answer is that a good answer, Sherry? I mean, in terms of, is that clear for you?
Richard, how would it work with bioacoustics? But we could answer that some other time. How can people get in touch with you? Give us a little bit of information about your site, because we're looking at it.
Okay. You can go to beathealthy.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at beathealthy and Facebook, all that stuff. But any kind of questions, just email support@beathealthy.com, and we'll get it. And we're really good. You know what? We pride ourselves in world-class customer support. And we do get back to people, and we do actually personal responses, because people need to understand this stuff, and I don't like it when I don't get a response from a support. So you will hear back from us, usually within 24 hours, if not within an hour. And so any kind of questions, we're happy to answer. Also, go to beathealthy.com and go into our library, like you were saying, Sherry. Tons of information there. And start with the Hrv Measurement Explanations, because that's really devised for all the questions we got from support, and we put that together.
And I want to toss in a question about, because I know part of SweetBeats is talking about foods, which you were like, what? How did we, what?
Right.
But how does this work with, in terms of a portable, easy-to-use food sensitivity monitoring system work or benefit?
Right. So SweetBeat also has what we call a food sensitivity test. And it's based on the heart rate, not heart rate variability. It's based on heart rate. And it turns out if you eat something that you're not allergic to, you're not going to get an anaphylactic reaction, but something that your body's reacting to at a low level, and by the way, that contributes to low-level inflammation, which if you're trying to lose weight or be healthy is not good. It turns out that your heart rate will increase above your morning baseline by something like 16 or 17 beats. And that can happen up to an hour and a half after your meal. And so what you do is basically you take a baseline pulse in the morning, and then you take your pulse before you eat to make sure that you didn't just get back from the gym. I mean, your heart rate needs to be within the baseline. And then it will take your pulse automatically at 30, 60, and 90 minutes after you eat. And we've got some great case studies on that. It's really remarkable. When an offending food is eaten, one case study, her heart rate it was gluten, okay? She ate pasta, and her heart rate went from a base of around 60 up to 86 an hour after she ate. And that was just sitting and watching TV, so there was nothing going on. Another case study, it went from a base of like 48 up to like 78 an hour and a half after eating the offending food. And she was sitting quietly at her desk working. So it's really interesting. And that ties in, it's all the feedback loop. So this low-level inflammation with cortisol and stress just wreaks havoc on the body. And so these are two complementary features in the SweetBeat app to lead really to a healthier life.
Wonderful. Is there a way, we're at the end of our time, but I have to ask this question because I can't help myself. Is there a way that people can be starting to benefit their HRV today, even though they don't have, the SweetBeat software, although they can go get it now? Is there something they can be doing on a daily basis now to begin having some benefit toward HRV?
Absolutely. And Richard, it's the same old story. Exercise, at least go walking, eat right. Really notice when you're doing the same stressful thing, especially when you're driving and some basic stuff like that. You know that you're getting upset at the same traffic jam every day. And we also recommend, meditation, yoga. If you can squeeze yoga in once a week. We've done case studies on that. Once a week of yoga made a huge difference in a young woman's HRV. So these are the things you can do without any tools or the technology.
That's wonderful.
It is the same old story, but people want a pill, and you just at least go walk for half an hour. Don't buy the junk food. Just don't do it, and be mindful of when you're having your little snit fits over things that don't matter.
It's all small stuff. But I do love. I really have to reiterate that in terms of a tool. I mean, how much is the app? It's
$5.
It's $5.
Yeah.
And you do need to get you need some sort of connecting device to monitor, and you talk about that on your website. But once you have
it, it's an athletic chest strap. It's a heart rate monitor like athletes use, like a Polar or a Zephyr or Garmin or whatever. It's just those familiar heart rate monitors. Anything that will talk to your iPhone or iPad. And Android is coming, just so you know that.
I hear rumor about Android. I'm waiting for Android. I'm delighted it's coming to Android.
Yeah.
Sherry, do you have any closing thoughts? Because I know we're running out of time.
No, there's just a ton of information on the site. I didn't know quite how to go deep into it till just now. But we're looking at frequently asked questions, and that, I think, would be a great place for people to start.
Great.
And on the front, there's this scroll, and I didn't know that if you snapped on that scroll, it would take you immediately to papers about it. So that was a neat thing to learn. So if I went to home and something came up and I snapped on...
yeah.
So that was real easy. But thank you for being here. This has been enlightening because I didn't know much about this at all.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure to do this with you guys.
Yeah, it was really excellent, Rhonda. Wonderful.
Okay.
I want to point people to your YouTube. About on the front page, and then at the bottom of that is YouTube.
Yes. The blog. We've got everything.
They can see a lot more of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Thank you
Sunday,
so much,
everybody.
Rhonda.
Okay.
You too.
All
Thanks,
righty,
Sherry.
bye.
Everybody have a great weekend.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.